Welcome, everyone, to episode 95 of Apron Podcast with Chia Boys. I'm your host, Michael Respass, and with me, as always, is your doctor-recommended dose of nerdiness, Carlos Rodriguez, a.k.a. your nerd today. Carlos, how you doing?
I feels like it's clobbering time.
Oh, man.
I don't know why we're wearing these shirts.
Nah, me neither. Nah, it's
not
not super obvious what we're talking about today. It's funny. we hinted at what we were going to talk about last week, for those of you that listen, and we said, yeah, we were going to talk about All In at Wembley Stadium, and I even texted you throughout the week and said, hey, All In still, right? And you said,
yep.
No, CM Punk. And I'm at the gym at the time, and I'm like, has he announced that he's coming back? And you're like, well, it sounds like he's coming back. And then ever since then, there's only been more stuff coming out.
Just more fuel the fire.
And the funny thing is, what was it, last episode? Or no, it must have been, I don't know, one of the last two episodes, whatever episode we were talking about, where I was saying that he's coming back. Like, I've been telling you this for a while now, that I think that this is all one big work on all of us. That I think they knew he was hurt. Do I think some of it was true and real? Yeah. Do I think they're playing this up like a motherfucker? Yes, I do. I think this is all being played up. I think it's just to get people talking. I don't know. I'm not surprised by any of it. I'm not surprised by any of this.
I'm not either. Yeah. If it was completely a work, not surprised. If it wasn't a work, honestly, not surprised with the people involved.
Yeah, but I think they're getting the most out of it. Now, whether they had issues in the past, I don't think they currently have issues. I literally read somewhere where somebody said they would not be surprised if the last episode of All Access is the Young Bucks and CM Punk sitting down and talking or something like that. Like they're literally like, it would be like the first time they've referenced CM Punk will be like the last episode.
I know the most concrete thing we've gotten since Brawl Out and that episode of Brawl Out was I made jokes at that episode because it's just funny to make fun of Canadians for being so nice and all. So apparently, this is like confirmed now at this point. Kenny stayed after the fight in Punk's locker room and like talked to him calmly and like stayed calm the whole time as like Punk's yelling at him and shit, and then all this other shit was going down, and then Punk calmed down. He's like, "All right, we ain't got no beef." Like basically, he was like, "No, we good." So him and Kenny, like, though not friends, not enemies in real life, and he was like, "That he's just the ultimate Canadian," and it was just like, "Hey, no." He was like, "All right, you're right."
At least one of them can be that way since Jericho.
Hey, hey, we go get into that.
All right, so for those of you who might not know what we're even referring to, I'm going to let Carlos. This has been a long story, and I don't know where you're starting. I don't know where you're starting with this, but I will say I'm going to go all the way back to when me and Walton brought back Apron Work. And that was CM Punk returning to wrestling. It was a huge deal. Still gives me chills when I watch it. I still remember.
It's still the best. I don't give.
I needed to watch it. That and his first match were like the two things where I'm like, you know. I don't know how far back your thing. I'm assuming this is going to start out from Brawl Out is where your timeline is coming from.
A little bit. I mean, we covered most of it in episode 91.
Well, I don't know what breakdown you're running. I know you said you have a list. Yeah. So is it kind of starting?
Yeah, I have a list. It's more recent stuff. I wanted to bring up the Kenny Omega thing, which I find surprising. Like, there was literally a fist fight between 6 people, Kenny Omega being one of them, and then he stayed. And a dog, yeah, and Kenny stayed and like squashed stuff right there. And then like the ultimate Canadian, like the ultimate good guy.
So I mean, I don't know. Since I'm going to cut you off real quick before you get fully into it, very quickly I should have had this better prepared. I do have a list here somewhere. So we're going to go back to when me and Walton started back, and that was CM Punk's return, and that was episode XX, which is technically episode 63, was the return of CM Punk. It was that we had a 2-year absence of Apron Work. We literally brought it back for that. We got excited for wrestling again. So you have there episode 63 if you want to know about his return and how me and Walton felt about it. Then we got the fallout from Brawl Out, The fallout from Brawl Out, from All Out, whatever exactly we titled it, and I don't remember exactly. And it should be here somewhere, unless I'm completely missing it.
That's episode 91. I just looked.
Oh, that's why I'm looking way too early.
That was 4 months ago?
Okay, yeah, so the Fallout from All Out to Brawl Out was the name. There you go. Episode 91. So, we've obviously taken a little bit of a break since that episode. But, yeah, that was right before we took a little bit of a break. So those are the two real ones that if you want to go back after this and get at least me and Walton's feelings on Punk coming back, you're going to get me and Carlos's feelings on the All Out, so we don't have to focus too much on those right now, although I'm sure we're gonna hit a lot on the fallout from Brawl Out, because why wouldn't we? But this is a lot supposed to be what's happened since then is what we're really gonna cover. So there you go. Now that I've interrupted you a lot of times, Carlos, you can kind of run down what you got.
Yeah, I find it interesting because one of the things that is not on my docket right here that I wanted to mention is I wonder if Dax Harwood from FTR has any swing of this, because he's had his podcast, which has been pretty good. I like it. If you're watching out there, but watch ours and then watch it. He doesn't need the views, we do. I love him. Don't get me wrong. Buy their merch. Listen to us while you buy their merch. So like that, it's like you're supporting all four of us.
Until we get
the best
merch.
Online tag team and the best tag team in wrestling.
Until we get merch, then buy our merch.
Yeah, then do that. And then buy both, and then listen to their podcast while you're buying our merch.
Yeah, exactly.
Done deal. No, but yeah, he's been kind of pushing for this for a while. He's been kind of pushing for everyone to kind of squash it, because it's the thing we've talked about. I think in episode 91, we've talked about it offline. Talked about it with the entrance ramp guys. Money, it's money, right? And professional wrestling's money. Like everyone jocks for their spot, and AEW is very focused on being the best wrestling, around, not sports entertainment, the best wrestling. And it's a very old school style. And as Cody mentioned it in interviews, like he wanted a kind of WCW style, like old school Crockett promotion style presentation to the audience. And for the Bucks, they wanted a PWG. So if you can, that's literally what AEW is. It's a mixture of both, at least old school stuff. So now Dax has been pushing on that on stuff, and we've heard a lot of good guy things. Danhausen just got a comic book.
Yeah.
Got Amazing Fantasy number 15, like gold grade if you're a comic book fan like me, from Pepsi Phil, as he calls him. We know there's good there, right? And no one's perfect in this situation, which we mentioned in the All Out Brawl Out, episode 91. But since then, stuff has been heating up lately. I like to think it was Dax who's been pushing for this, but stuff has been heating up. And earlier this week, I'll list kind of right what we have here, and then the update that we had yesterday. So this was from Frightful, Sean Ross Sapp. He goes, "Nothing is set in stone. Things can change, and is often tumultuous situation." Sorry, CM Punk's return was tentatively planned earlier in the week for AEW. Apparently, it was also talked about a few months ago. Him and TK kind of came to an understanding, but then he kind of had his little outburst about Mox, which Mox has addressed on Renee Paquette's. Again, listen to hers after ours. Okay, She doesn't need the views. She's super famous, a good cook, like a good mom. It seems like she doesn't need that. They want to burp in the mic. Yeah, and that hit a snag when he put that Instagram post up, like a teenage girl. And to be fair, everyone's kind of acting like high school in this situation for a lot of people. But so earlier in the week, he said, as of today, 100%, yeah. As of today, the working plan has been for Punk to return to AEW television on the June 21st Dynamite in Chicago, or at least around it. There was also pitches to announce it well ahead of time. So we have June 21st is the go home Dynamite before Forbidden Door 2. I just looked it up. I was like, that's really close to that. So we have Forbidden Door 2. That is coming from the Scotia Arena in Toronto, Ontario, June 25th, 2023. So that Wednesday before would be this Dynamite they're speaking of. Or we have Rampage, which is that Friday. And typically the rampages before events like this are live, because they'll film Dark and Dark Elevation like after or before or whatever. So that there's a chance that's going to be live as well. So it could be either or on that week. CM Punk has been hoping to work with the Elite. However, there's been no contact between both sides. The last Fightful heard was that the Elite was not keen on the possibility of working with him. Obviously, situation, it is what it is. Again, apparently good guy Kenny stayed, cleaned up a bit, apologized for his part in like the physical fight, not the anger, but the fight, because it got out of hand. Very much an adult in that situation, which is weird. Punk has been trying to push for a meeting between everyone, but so far Fightful doesn't know if any progress has been made on that. Fightful also notes that the Elite are in the middle of negotiating new AEW contracts. There's also a meeting planned between CM Punk and Chris Jericho to see if working together is a possibility. I don't think that's happening. We'll get into that soon. There's been more.
We got to go through this so I can get my feeling. I've now had 3 things.
Yeah, we'll talk about like, I think this is a Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll talk about this and then move on to the update.
No.
There's been more traction inside Warner Brothers Discovery about an announcement of a primetime Saturday show designed as a soft roster split to accommodate talent who want to stay away from particular situations. Talents have heard that this Saturday show, but heard nothing on Punk's return. Again, this is not set in stone and anything can change. So that was, oh my goodness. That was like earlier in the week. That was like Tuesday or Wednesday. So let's pause there. Immediate thoughts from that situation. That's when I started texting when you were in the gym.
All right. So I want to go to everything you said up to this point. That Instagram post was done on purpose. I don't care what anybody says. This was all done on purpose. Because think about this. And really, let's think about this. At that point, they were talking about how CM Punk was trying to make amends, right? And then the Instagram post comes out, conveniently. Up to that point, who were we talking about Punk having issues with? And really, who were we talking about Punk having issues with? It was the Elite, right? That was all.
Mm-hmm.
That was all. The Elite and Hangman. After that post, now there is Moxley and there is Jericho. And in my mind, let's say they don't want to give you the Elite right away. Now they can give you Punk Jericho. Now they can go back at Punk Moxley for right now before giving you that eventually. You now opened up that the whole fucking locker room, all these guys have issues with Punk and Punk has issues with them. We were not talking about a Punk Jericho issue really up until that post. We weren't talking about
there was
Punk
rumors
Moxley.
that he came in.
Well, that he was the guy holding the AEW flag, and he was the one saying we don't need Punk. But everybody was writing that off as. I mean, Jericho has been very blindly supportive of AEW, saying they were going to beat Raw, all this other shit. He's said stuff like that before. So you kind of write it off when Jericho says it because you're like, all right, he's being supportive of the company that he's having a hand here in trying to build. And
it's like a rapper saying they're the greatest.
Yeah.
Are you? You got to say you are because that's the game, right?
So Jericho's got to say, hey, we don't need him because he's not there. So why wouldn't he say that? I never took that as a knock on Punk. I took that as a confidence from Jericho that they don't need him, that they can get to where they want to be without him. So now suddenly there's this weird issue between him and Jericho that nobody's heard about. Hold on. We've heard all these little rumors of everything else. Nobody's even been talking about a Jericho Punk thing. How does Punk come out?
There was one report. There was one report. It was hidden because it was just nothing really came of it. And it was like way after. And it was that Jericho, after the whole fight, as like Punk's like wrapping up or whatever, he went to his dressing room and was like, dude, you're a fucking cancer. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And Punk said, go fuck yourself.
But way after.
Mm-hmm. It's like literally the end of the night. Like everyone's piecing the fuck out of the arena after
Meltzer and Alvarez, they knew everything that was going on, but this shit comes out way after. When Punk starts getting healed up. Now suddenly Jericho called him a cancer. Now suddenly Punk's calling him a stooge. And I'm not saying there's not any real heat between them, but it's convenient that this shit started coming out when Punk was getting closer to being healthy. Very convenient that stuff came out now and not before. So that's where a lot of this stuff, it's tough for me to be like, to take this as not one big fucking setup. Like, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it. But, like, I don't know. And I'm sure we're going to get into stuff that just happened over the last day or two. So I don't want to get too far into that. But I do believe that post was on purpose. That Punk can come out and wrestle Jericho at Forbidden Door, let's say. And there's already a storyline built into it. You don't need it. Literally, you could just focus on his comments on Instagram. And Jericho, the reports of Jericho calling him a cancer. You don't even really need a full 2-month build-up to get him to wrestle Jericho right away.
Yeah, and another thing, too, that came up to me when you mentioned Mox. Mox, the only thing we've ever heard about from All Out back in August was Mox was outside smoking a cigarette literally after his match. I think with Eddie. Him and Eddie were just catching up. Just how your night go? How's everything going? And he heard a fucking commotion. And he was like, what the fuck is going on? And that's literally all we've heard. So now apparently they got beef because Punk's never seen fucking Rocky 3.
Hold on. And
that's the egregious thing right there.
Again, everything has been put out there on purpose. Now suddenly we're hearing about the issues that him and Moxley had about the storyline they were doing, because who is now turning heel?
Moxley, yeah.
Moxley's turning heel, right? What's a way to make him a bigger heel than for Punk to come out and say, remember why I left WWE in the first place? Well, Moxley had a hand in wanting me to still wrestle injured when I said I wasn't ready to go. And I'm not going to sacrifice my health for anybody, so they made me go out there and do that stupid-ass match. It's that whole idea that now Moxley suddenly... It's funny, that news came out as Moxley was turning heel. And now it gives a reason for the fans to boo Moxley a little bit more. Especially when he's going up against Punk. That's what I said. I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's weird because especially because Punk has this connection with Renee too. Like,
yeah.
Do I Punk, although a dickhead, and see, all this stuff could be true. This could be real heat used for wrestling purposes. Punk can be an asshole, and so can the Bucks. Like, and all this can be true. Like, you can actually not like somebody and work well with them in the ring. We've seen it plenty 100%. Of times before in wrestling. None of this, it doesn't have to be one side or the other. Punk seems like an asshole unless he likes you. But he also seems like a very loyal person if he likes you. Until you fuck him over, and then he has no problem running you over.
Quickly,
as we've seen in the past. So, like, I don't know. I just... He's very loyal to Renee. Why would he throw Mox under the bus for something that he could just blame management for? Why was Moxley's name in there? Moxley didn't force anything. It sounds like Moxley came up with an idea. Tony Khan liked Moxley's idea better.
Yeah.
And Punk was kind of annoyed. All right, that's fine, but he kind of like drug Moxley's name through the mud there. For what reason other than future storyline purposes? That's the only way I can think of it. So that's why, as weird as it seemed, it seemed also set up to me.
Yeah, it's Mox who, like, doesn't cause shit. He doesn't ruffle fucking feathers. Like,
hold on. Who were the three guys that stood up after the Punk Fallout Brawlout stuff? The three guys that stood up. Yeah,
Mox, Danielson, Jericho.
What? We've now recently heard that Punk has an issue with two of them. You know, and maybe it's because they don't believe that people would believe that him and Danielson have issues, so they're not going down that road. Or I don't know, maybe you get a Punk Danielson against Moxley and some, you know what I mean? Maybe Danielson turns on them and goes on Punk's side. I don't know, but it's like I said, it's convenient. And maybe Punk. I don't know, but like, It's tough. It's tough for me to watch all of this and not think this hasn't been set up from the beginning, because since we've talked about this, I've said they're going to use this, and it really looks like they're using it. And I don't know if Meltzer and Alvarez are being played, or if they're trying to stir the pot, because they've been that way since the beginning.
God, yeah. I mean,
like who would believe if they started siding with Punk over the Elite? Nobody, right?
No.
They've always been hardcore Elite fans. So what's the better way to do it? Now have them turn on FTR and Punk and say that they're doing this for, and I'm sure you'll now get into that. But I'm
100%. Yeah, we'll. So yeah, it's funny enough. The next report is from Meltzer and Alvarez. Yeah, Wrestling Observer newsletter. CM Punk expected to return. Details on new Saturday night AEW show. So Punk is largely expected to return. However, none of the backstage issues have been resolved as of press time. Dave says it's a tenuous situation. The working idea for the new show is that CM Punk would be the star of the show and that the roster was split to some degree. Although obviously pay-per-views, etc., would need to have all hands on deck. Dave also notes that such a roster or brand splits, historically never last long. Whatever, I think it's necessary, especially with the fucking roster size that AEW has at this point too. That's why I was hoping Rampage would do something, but they haven't, or at least ROH. Pardon me. Dave mentions the Fightful report that Chicago at the Wintrust Arena was a tentative date/location for Punk's return. Says it makes the most sense, especially since it would be after the NBA playoffs. The original idea for the new show was that it would be 2 hours long and it would have the same star power as Dynamite. Currently, the 7 to 8 the July 8th Regina taping is scheduled for 6 p.m. Central Time, so that would mean either 7:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern start time for the new show. Dave says these deals haven't been 100% finalized yet. He doesn't know if it will be on TNT or TBS. Dave notes that he heard that about a June start for the new show, but they haven't announced any tapings for June. Dave says that he doesn't expect a major new show to debut in Regina, and that the July 8th date is probably just the latest that they would want to start the show. So it's mainly Saturday show focused, but the idea is, again, that it was brought up in as well the Fightful report that any people who have issues go to the Saturday show. Like, you don't want CM Punk doesn't want to work with Kenny, they go to the fucking Saturday show.
See, and I get all that, but let's be honest here. If we thought that not a single wrestler had an issue with anybody, wouldn't it make sense to put Kenny on one show and to put Punk on the other show? Like, wouldn't it make sense to put Danielson on one show and MJF on the other show? Like, wouldn't it make sense to not overstack one show? And I think that's where the biggest problem is right now, if there's talks of them splitting it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's because they don't want to be around each other. People will read that into it, and they will. We've seen it with WWE time and time again. Brock Lesnar doesn't want to be in WWE anymore, and then the next week he's out there. You just read this stupid bullshit because it fits a narrative. Do I think those guys can't coexist in a locker room together? I know for a fact they can, because they don't need to be in the same fucking locker room together. They can be Punk. How many times have we heard those different guys have their own fucking locker rooms anyway? You think the Bucks, the Elite having their own locker room and Punk having his own locker room, they're gonna have an issue because they're in two completely different fucking rooms all night? I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm sure the Bucks and Kenny get there a lot earlier than what Punk would get there. I don't understand how, when you have probably 100 or so people in the background, that you're worried about two people walking in the same vicinity as each other. I don't get it.
And just like coming to fist fight, basically. That's what it seems like. They're so afraid that a fist fight's gonna break out.
Yeah, and but couldn't that happen again, no matter what? I don't know. I couldn't Punk just show up at their house right now? Like, I don't understand. I understand
we all
that
know
being around each other.
Rancho Cucamonga is not hard.
I understand that being around each other and making comments. I guess I get that. But I don't know.
Well, we know at least one person. Oh, fucking shut up. Listen, Punk. Everyone needs to shut the fuck up and get this money, because like right now, especially with everything that's happened in the past year, it is the fucking perfect time to make money. And I will mention an idea that Mark, friend of the show, mentioned on our text chat, right? He goes, okay, let's say Hangman doesn't help out or whatever for this, like he's like too injured or whatever, right? For this Elite versus BCC, right? Why not have the Elite and CM Punk versus the BCC? Have them go through that, blow off Stadium Stampede, some shit like that, right? And then that Wednesday, Punk just destroy the Elite because it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend right now. So I'll battle with you against Moxley, and then start CM FTR versus the Elite and Hangman. Think of the money, and like even right there, I mean, Dax has mentioned it on the show. Wembley, All In, like the full circle moment for AEW to have All In again now that they own, all of ROH and shit. They got that name back. Have that full circle moment of the most incredible match that you can think of. Just there's so much personal shit that fucking sock their shit out of each other for real. Believe that shit in the ring and make that fucking money. And then move on and let's fucking squash that shit. This is a chance for everyone just to be like, we're done. I have a black eye. I have a detached retina, whatever the fuck it might be. We good, right? We good. Good.
See, I looking at the next set of pay-per-views and everything, I wish their next, the Double or Nothing, I wish, that's in Vegas, right? I'm assuming, isn't it usually in Vegas?
It typically is in Vegas, yeah.
I don't know where the T-Mobile Arena is. It doesn't. So is that? Yeah, it's in Vegas. I wish it was in Chicago. Because what I envision is you get your with Blood and Guts, right? You get your Blood and Guts with Blackpool Combat Club against the Elite. You get that match out of the way. You come at the end, you have MJF win his 4-way match. Then you have Kenny Omega come down. Right? You have him, the crowd goes nuts, Kenny Omega basically calling out MJF. And then as they're both standing in the ring, Punk's music comes on. He comes down to an even bigger thing. And he comes down and you think he's going to go after MJF, and he goes after Omega, and you kind of start this whole Elite against, Punk kind of thing. And then that's when FTR, eventually over the weeks, FTR comes out and makes a save for Punk, because now it's just been the Elite against them. I don't see them doing that. Yeah. I don't see them doing that in Vegas. I think they need Punk to return in Chicago, on the off chance that the crowd does not side with him over the Elite. So that's why
that first crowd when they came back, that first pay-per-view, right?
That's why
against Death Triangle.
That's why Vegas is hard. It's hard. That
would just be a pro AEW, not necessarily pro CM Punk.
Like, I could see Punk showing up at the end. Like I told you that before. I could see Punk showing up after MJF wins, because that was the whole thing. The rumor that Punk was upset because MJF came out and got cheers in Chicago after he won the title. Which, in reality, if you think back of it, I don't know how upset Punk was, but the more you think about it, the more that did not make sense. MJF had been gone for a little while. People were very happy with the way that he left, in like the weirdest way. And then he was gone for a little bit, and now he shows up and introduces himself. Clearly the crowd was going to cheer him. They just were. So if they thought it being in Chicago that the crowd was not, they haven't seen him in a while. We didn't know who the hell the man in the mask was, and he shows up at the end. What should have happened, in all honesty, is Punk win and then have that reveal happen on Wednesday. That's what should have happened. Gotcha. After let kind of Punk have that moment at the end. Now, fuck, I mean, we haven't seen Punk since that night, so really it hasn't mattered that much. And maybe that was the point of it. And again, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I am when it comes to this. And maybe, as weird as that sounds, right? Why not end the night with Punk holding the title up in Chicago, right? Why not? Unless you know he ain't gonna be there. So now,
like, he's hurt somehow.
Yeah. They already kind of knew. I don't know if he got hurt during that match, but I thought they already knew that he was going to be out before all that shit happened in the interview at the end. Like they were pretty confident he was gone.
Yeah, fair.
I think they already kind of knew. Now I don't know if that was before the match or happened in the match, whatever it was. But I would not doubt that was an audible in a way, where they were like, all right. We were supposed to have Punk have his moment, but he's done right now. He's not going to have the title. So what do we do? But now we have MJF come out. We have him come out and introduce himself to the crowd. We're going to remember this. And now we can turn it to MJF, eventually getting the title.
Mm-hmm.
Because didn't after that point, that was the whole MJF starting to become a good guy.
That like first Wednesday,
yeah, like it was the whatever the fuck their group name is. They started like turning on him a little bit, and that happened over that time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if that was necessarily the plan to make him a face, but I think they were starting to do that because at that point they had Audible from what it was, and it was going to be, maybe Punk as the face and Moxley as a heel for a little bit after that. And now they had to figure something out. So now let's try to turn Moxley. And then you got the whole Regal thing and MJF and the crowd thinking now he's a good guy and people booing Moxley and all this other stuff was happening. I would not doubt that was done on purpose because they knew Punk was going to be out. And again, this is me completely 1,000% conspiracy theorist. But like, really think about that in a bubble. Does that make sense in Chicago to bring MJF out after Punk won the title, unless you assume that MJF's going to get booed by the crowd, which I think is crazy to think that we haven't seen MJF in a while. Nobody knew who it was. I mean, you were hinted at who it was by his body type and him walking, but you didn't know who he was. Why have that reveal in Chicago when Punk was supposed to be... It was supposed to be ending with Punk holding the title up. If it wasn't an audible in my mind. I don't know. And maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Yeah. I mean, going back to like when... I feel like last year is when we started seeing the cracks, right? I feel like there was already cracks in the foundation of AEW, like truly and honestly, like not like kayfabe. Like I think there's been cracks in the foundation. We've talked about it before. I've been critical about TK being the best and worst of us in that sense because he is us. Like he is a person who loves professional wrestling. Like he's booked shows in his online federation, like we all did back in the 2000s and shit like that. But he has the fucking money. And he has a fucking promotion that's the biggest rival to WWE since WCW, and is already on a better track, I would say, from the early years. I'm not that old school person that knows when Ted Turner took over and how well that was doing. I know from the history books, the history DVD, should I say, like the rise and fall of WCW and stuff that it started really kicking off. But like I feel like they're on a better track here. But we started seeing some of the little cracks now. The best thing that I think that had not true heat, but like some like, hey, this is not really working out really well, but we're going to be copacetic was Cody and the Elite. Like they weren't really happy with each other.
Right.
And that kind of came off that way, but it wasn't annoying. Right. You could tell there was like booking decisions. They weren't together in team stuff. It was like, that's okay. There's still like a weird respect there that everyone comes across. Now, we do have a bunch of younger people, as Punk has mentioned, a lot of young Punk kids who don't want to listen, right? And I think that does become an issue, right? There is this whole new generation of professional wrestlers that think that they are God's gift to professional wrestling. And again, it's like that rapper thing, right? If you're a rapper, you got to think you're the greatest. If you don't, why the fuck are you here?
Right.
Why are you doing this if you don't think you're the fucking best? So you start having that, right? And I think Punk comes in. Cody wants to be on a bigger level that he believes he should be. Maybe he wasn't ready for it, as he's claimed he hasn't been ready for it this past year since he's jumped ship. But he jumped ship. And that was like the first thing in my mind. I was like, ooh, you let your biggest talent go. Right? Like the guy who created this with you guys. Like he's gone. That's crazy to me. And he's had an incredible year. Again, you were right that Roman Reigns won. I don't understand where we're going with that,
Vince,
but
Vince.
Yeah, Vince. Yeah,
Vince he's too hard-headed.
He really is. But you let him go, and then there are little things like we've mentioned before. Like TK does not know how to manage people correctly, right? Big Swole goes online and criticizes AEW and criticizes, Kenny Omega, TK about booking and things like that with the women's division and stuff like that. Okay. Did you hear Kenny say a word? No. But the fucking owner and CEO of the company went on Twitter, like Elon Musk and all these other crazy rich fucks, and just goes and talks shit about her. That was the first thing. I was like, wow, dude, not a good look. Not a good look at all. So this dude doesn't know how to manage. If anyone doesn't know how to manage a fucking target, it's fucking TK. When Punk's going off on everyone, he's just like flabbergasted and doesn't know what to do. Shut his fucking mic off. Tell everyone to shut his fucking mic off.
Because it was planned.
I know you think that. I know. Listen,
I know.
I'm not even saying you're wrong. When Hangman says his line and Punk gets pissy about it, that's when you pull both of them aside separately. But yo, Hangman, not cool. This is like, we're a team. We gotta focus. We gotta stay. It's us versus fucking WWE. Let's be honest. It is us versus WWE. We're building it up little by little, and one day we're gonna be at that level where we are neck and neck with Raw. We are doing that thing. We have to build it, but we need to build it slowly and steadily. We don't need this shit right now. Punk, shut the fuck up. He's gonna stay here for fucking ever. You have a fucking shelf life. He does not. You need to work with him. He needs to work with you. Everyone be an adult and then fucking walk out. But he didn't do that. He's constantly failed. I mentioned this before in previous episodes. He's constantly failed to uphold the standard in AEW. Kingston and Sammy Guevara get into it. That should have never fucking happened from jump. That's miscommunication. And they settled that shit. Sammy keeps running his fucking mouth because that's who Sammy is. But they settled that shit.
But hold on. So they can all be who they were, but then you want Hangman to hold back off of what he's done before AEW. You want Punk to hold back. I don't believe that there is as much heat between them from the shit they said. Do I think they were happy about it? No. But I think it's the same thing with Sammy and Kingston. I think Kingston was pissed, but I think he was like, I understand it. Like, you're trying to make me be viewed a certain way. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think there was a weird...
And he came out and said he fucked up, too. He said it. He said it publicly. He's like, I fucked up. I should have put my hands on him.
I do believe there was a weird understanding between Hangman and Punk. I think Hangman said shit went too far because, first of all, Hangman sucks on the mic, and I think he needed shit like that to hang with Punk. No pun intended. I think he needed something to feel real. Do I think Punk was a little annoyed? Yeah, I think he was a little annoyed. Do I think that's why he came out and said the shit he did? Absolutely, that's why he came out and said the shit he did. But I also know that Punk is like, you can't want unfiltered Punk when it's convenient for you. You can't want it. You either get unfiltered Punk all the time or not at all. And the thing is, the fans... it's one of those weird things you say it all the time. The fans aren't stupid, and they are stupid all at the same time. And I will include myself in it, I'm not talking about any specific fans specifically, but they know a lot because of social media. They know a lot of shit. People are not dumb. And if Punk just sat there and took it on the chin, Punk wouldn't be Punk. So I felt like he almost felt like he needed to. That's what we love
about him. You're right.
I felt like he needed to, and whether that pissed people off, who cares? Because it got people talking. We're still talking about it right now. We are still talking about it. I think one thing in professional wrestling is you act first, mend fences later. And we only talk about the certain shit we talk about because of the shit that was said, because the shit that was done.
Here's a good example. I mean, I know it's been reiterated multiple times. This year, finally, I don't know. Funny enough, I don't know why it popped up on my TikTok like multiple times. Do you remember the promo off between The Rock and Cena?
Yeah.
So you remember that Rock had something written on his hand?
Yeah.
And Cena fucking blasted him.
No.
Fucking won.
Yeah.
And he needed that win. Cena, not bad on the mic. Not even gonna say he was better when he was a heel, but finding that line between good guy, superhero, Superman Cena and like trying to get a one up on the fucking Rock, he found his one up.
Yeah.
Did he break a rule? Yes. Yes, he did.
Absolutely.
But Cena already said, he already said it before, and I even that's what it was. Rollins even talked about it, and it's funny because like I found these TikToks like on separate days on separate accounts, like within 1 week. But that promo off thing happened. Cena even talks about it in interviews, like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I did it because I needed the win.
Yeah.
And you see the Rock's fucking furious. They handled that shit. They had a great fucking match. But then Rollins even says it. He's like, I'm going to bring that shit up because it was the Riddle thing. He's like,
right.
Didn't you think it was like a little overboard? He's like, no. Cena taught me to go for the throat.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
And then you talk about it later. And that's what all this is. That's what all this is. Because you know what? The Rock made a career on insulting people and downplaying their character and
Billy
basically
Gunn was
mocking
ruined
the
after
shit
that
out
one
of
promo.
Like, that's what The Rock made a career on. So now somebody did it to him, and oh my God, it's blasphemy. Like, they had real world heat. Cena had said shit about The Rock in interviews about leaving for Hollywood, which then Cena eventually did himself. But there's also a difference. Cena did it for double-digit years, where The Rock was The Rock for, what, a handful? If you really think about the amount of time The Rock spent, it was a short amount of time. It was a very short amount of time.
And Cena still comes back.
Yeah.
Like, actively comes back.
So
he just wrestled at WrestleMania.
That's a prime example right there, where it's like, hey, act first, deal with that shit later. Now, could Punk have more of a handle on that than guys like the Bucks and Hangman? Yeah. I mean, they might not have had to deal with that as much as Punk has. And Punk knows, hey, you're going to come at my throat, I'm going to come at yours, and we're going to deal with it. And could it have pissed Hangman off? Yeah, it could have. But guess what? Again, we're still talking about it. And so you want to say that TK can't manage people. I think the best managers in the world are going to have people that think they're the worst. If you go, and we talked about the Gresham thing, what was it, last week or week before, whatever we talked about, where he talks about, hey, he deals with people in all these organizations. He dealt with it perfectly. Did he deal with Gresham perfectly before that? No. But did he handle it and say, hey, no hard feelings, I understand it? Yeah. Because guess what? Your backup kicker and your starting quarterback don't get the same type of attention. They just don't. You can't expect Tony Khan to have... Now he's going to have 3 shows and ROH and all this other shit, and he's still dealing with the Jaguars and he's still dealing with the soccer team they have. You can't expect him to literally have time for everybody. I know we all want to think it, but we can't. He can't. So some people are going to feel disrespected. And no offense, the people that have badmouthed him the most are the people that really weren't worth the time in the ring. No knock on Big Swole, but where the fuck is she? Where is she?
We talked
she wasn't
about
very
that.
good there. Obviously, she felt like she should have got more time. I'm sure there's a lot of people there currently that still feel like they should have more time. But you can't give everybody more time. And the whole bloated roster thing was what we were begging for I don't know how long ago. And I should have, during this, because I knew I was just going to talk about this, a long time ago, and man, this is a while ago, where we talked about an off season, and this might have been very early on in Apron work. Where
I think we were talking about MLW, right? Because they have all
yeah, but I gotta be honest with you. I think this was back when Peachy was still doing episodes with us.
God,
it's a long time ago. Roman Reigns had mentioned an off season, and we talked about would that be best? How would that work in wrestling? The AEW has basically giving us that. He's given wrestlers that. I know we hate when we don't see people for a while and they say, where's Miro and where's this? Guess what? These guys are being paid and not showing up on TV. Why? Because when he does come back, and some of them are going to go, some of them are not going to be happy with this, but like, you can give guys breaks. And some of them might not want it, but you can give guys breaks. It's why we can go a couple months without seeing Darby Allin, and then suddenly he's competing for the title. It's why we can go a while without seeing any of these guys. And
Hangman,
you could just,
when he had his kid,
yeah,
he took even longer than most wrestlers do for their baby.
Had Punk not got hurt, we would have had Moxley gone for a little bit. He was supposed to be on vacation. Like, you can lose like, there's certain guys we're not going to lose because they're getting up there in age. You got a guy like Danielson where I think they even they talked about how Tony doesn't want to lose him for too long because he's probably done with wrestling soon. Mm-hmm. You want to get the most out of him, and if he's willing to work it, but I'm sure if Danielson said, hey, I wanted 2 months off every year, he's going to be like, all right, there's enough people there to plug and play with. Keith Lee can go on a run. Adam Cole, you got Aleister Black could go on a singles run. There's a lot of guys that can fill those spots. So he built this roster up for that reason. And then for all the people that said, yeah, WWE overworks their guys, are now mad that they're not seeing all their favorites all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this was done on purpose. This is literally done on purpose so that you can give guys breaks. So when Jericho goes on tour, he can be gone from TV for a little while and it'd be okay. FTR can go do their thing in Japan and leave for a while and it's okay. Mm-hmm. You can go through a whole spurt from one pay-per-view to another with a guy being completely missing from TV, and you have enough guys on the roster. It sucks when they're all around and you don't get enough people on a pay-per-view, and it sucks, but there has to be give and take there, and that's what this whole thing is about, is them getting time off. It's why FTR said they wanted to come back. Think about all the shit that everybody thought FTR was upset about, right? We heard it. They would say, oh, yeah, yep, Tony's got to put us on TV, right, when they were out in the thing. Because they're fucking playing to the goddamn fans. You think FTR didn't know they weren't old
school? Yeah.
You think they didn't know what was going on? You think they weren't already conversing? That them and Tony weren't talking about this? They said that shit on purpose to get the crowd to chant FTR because they knew they were coming back soon. And they played the fans to talk about them, to get ready for them to come back. TK wasn't keeping them off TV. They were doing their shit. They were literally wrestling in like other countries and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you think they didn't know? He didn't know. He kept them out of a program on purpose because they're going to be gone. It's all. That's why I said, oh, this is on purpose. This is all on purpose.
They got to heal up.
It's funny.
Too.
It's funny. Punk was going to be out for months, and then this shit happens, and then they ignore him. What's the best way to have somebody return? You don't fucking talk about them. But it's funny, they're talking about him on social media. They don't want you to forget about him, but they want you to forget about him. So when he comes back, it's like, whoa, what happened? What is this? I thought he was supposed to come back to Chicago. Why is he now coming at Double or Nothing? Because it's going to happen. Because this has been planned out. Because they knew how long he's going to be out. And they start talking about it again when he was healing up. This is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Why didn't he settle things while he was hurt? Why haven't we heard that they talked about it while he was hurt? Why is it now suddenly happening when he's getting better? Because they didn't want you to talk about it, but they wanted you to remember it. It's a weird thing. Again, I don't care. I don't care what you say. This is all planned out. And
I love it. I love that take. I'm not even.
I feel like it's too convenient. It's too convenient. And like I said, it's one of those things. If we would believe that Meltzer would turn on the Young Bucks, everything they're talking about would be the opposite way. I just don't, it's like one of those things. Mm-hmm. I don't think people are ever going to believe that Meltzer, like, then everybody would be like, this smells fishy. If Meltzer started coming out and saying the Young Bucks and Kenny acted like children, CM Punk just tried to come and help them, him and FTR really trying to get this match, and the Elite just don't want none of it, and they just are not doing what's best for AEW. Would any of us believe that?
Yeah,
we'd all be like, this seems fishy.
Yeah, especially coming from him.
Exactly.
Like, that would be the thing.
So now, who's over the top anti-Punk and FTR right now? It's Alvarez and Meltzer. They're over the top anti them.
Now, the only thing I will say is that I don't know. Did you see the most recent tweets and something else popped in my head? I'm not going to say it out loud. But Ty Mello and Brandon Cutler.
Now, Ty Mello has multiple times already said this has absolutely nothing to do with that because she's not involved.
Oh, already? Okay,
yeah.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was very coincidental then because Brandon Cutler, who was part of Brawl Out in the sense that he broke up the fight and got suspended, tweeted out, or retweeted, quote tweeted, pardon me, Deadspin, sister site to Kotaku, which their article, the headline goes, CM Punk is gaslighting AEW. And he put up someone gets it. And it was taken down. Now, was it taken down because in Brandon's head, it's like, I should have stirred the pot. That's on me. Or was it taken down because finally management's like, hey, enough is fucking enough. Everyone's wrong in this situation. We're going fucking past it. Be a fucking man. Shut the fuck up. You want to be no contract Cutler? Or do you want to stay 2 contract Cutler?
Or could the guy who's associated with the Elite,
who
made a comment about
that
it
as well,
could be furthering along a storyline without it actually being the other guys? Because everybody assumes that if Cutler does something, it's the same thing with Meltzer. They assume if Meltzer talks, the Young Bucks whispered it in his ear. When Cutler speaks, they assume that that's the Young Bucks speaking without consequence. So I don't find it surprising because it just goes along with my narrative, and then him deleting it pushes it even more. It makes it more real. If you delete it, it makes it more real. If you keep it up there, then you start saying, that's weird. People have deleted less worse things than that. Why'd he delete it?
Why that specific?
Yeah. Why'd he delete it? Somebody must have told him to delete it, or they wanted to make it a bigger deal. Because Brandon Cutler sharing a tweet don't mean nothing, but him sharing a tweet and then deleting it,
don't matter.
Him sharing a tweet and then deleting it comes off a little bit more like, who told him to delete
it? But he's a very nice man. He was very nice.
But I'm just saying, like, it's the because I seen somebody. They put side by side. They put that on Twitter, but then they also put when he remember Jim Ross went on about how stupid it is that they all kind of go together and stand there wait for somebody to jump on them.
Yes, or Mark said that. No,
but like when JR came out about it, saying that he wished it didn't look the way it does, and then it was a 7-on-7 match, and Brandon Cutler posts, 7-on-7, it's going to be huge. Just wait for all of us to stand outside and wait for he word for word said what JR said on there, and people made like a big deal about it, and they're like, oh, it's the Bucks really want to say it, and Brandon's just saying it for them.
The Bucks would say it,
but that's what I'm saying. It comes off that way, and people want to read into that. So I don't know. And the Ty Mello who posted a thing about gaslighting, and see, I've seen somebody say this on Twitter, and I almost want to laugh because I'm like, I feel like the person who posted it has never heard of gaslighting before, because they were like, it's weird, both of them posting something about gaslighting and thing, and like, if I looked up gaslighting on Twitter, I'd probably find a million posts, and they ain't all about CM Punk.
Yeah. Also, we can you imagine though her being like, you know what, this quote really hit me because we don't know how her previous marriage was, right? Like we don't know like what the separation was caused or anything, which is fine. We don't need to know about their lives. But like she could have been like, my ex was such a dick, he gaslit me. Put this up, and then it was like, why is everything blowing the fuck up right now? Like what's going on? Did my Patreon photos hit? No. Oh God, no. Why is everyone freaking out this one post? Oh, Brandon.
I feel like we've all been there where we've made a post and our significant other or our friend texts us and say, what the fuck? And I'm like, this has nothing to do with you. Like, this has nothing to do. I know, understand what you're talking about. I know we were just fighting last night, whatever the hell it was. This literally has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And like,
or those work meetings where like, hey, you guys aren't pulling up your Slack. It was like, I know who you're talking to. Yeah. It's her, not us.
Yeah, but then like part of you is like kind of pissed, and you're like, yo, and like right away,
why
like,
did you have to say that?
Take them off the side, and you're like, it was really about the one person. I just had to say you all because I can't.
Yep, it's exactly. What
it's that same mindset. You can't talk about anything at this point because it's about right now. Anybody's post on any social media, wrestling related, has to be about CM Punk or Jordynne Grace. I don't think anybody else can be talked about currently. Like right now, any post is about one or the other. That's all wrestling Twitter is about right now.
Cody is a fucking contracted WWE performer. He was going into his like whatever match, like he was gearing up to the road to WrestleMania, and they had to ask him about Brawl Out. No, they fucking did it. No one. I mean, I get that they feel like they need to because he's an AEW executive and all this other stuff, and God bless him. Honest to God, God bless him. He's a really nice man. It seems like, because he was like, you know what? Yeah, all right, let's talk about it real quick. I'm gonna stay fucking neutral as shit because I don't fucking work there anymore, and that's not on me. But this is what happened. This is my side of things, how I saw it, and I'm upset about it. In a very slight way, we are done talking about this. Like everyone, and that again, a WWE performer is talking about CM Punk.
Yeah.
In that situation, on a WWE branded show.
Hold on, Punk returned, and they asked Roman Reigns about it.
Yeah.
And that's the let's get into this right now. And I'm gonna say, regardless of if all this is real or not, do you want to see CM Punk back? Yes. Do you think he should be back? Do you think for the sake of AEW he should be back?
Caveat being that everyone is an adult about this. Like, hey, that shit's in the past.
No. There's going to be tension. There's going to be tension. I'm telling you right now, in this scenario I'm giving you, there will constantly be tension. There will always be the thought that somebody might punch somebody at some point. They'll try to work together, but there's always going to be tension. You're expecting any adults to be adults, and I can be honest with you, in certain situations, I can't be an adult. There's nobody in this world that is an adult 100% of the time. We all got our own issues. We all got shit that sets us off. So I'm going to say, in this scenario, you can't guarantee that everything's going to be fine. Do you think it's worth bringing him back to AEW?
I want to see him back, but no. Only because I crave that guarantee that everything would be okay.
I'd say,
you know what I mean?
I'd say 1,000% yes. I'd say that AEW is better with him than without him, and I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if their top stars don't want to work with him. I don't care if we're getting Punk against indie guys every week. Punk is better for them. He just is. It's the same reason why we get the same stupid bullshit of should AEW bring in Goldberg. It sounds ridiculous. It does, but guess what gets them eyes on the product? It's Goldberg. It's the same reason why Logan Paul and Brock Lesnar and all these guys, no matter how much they work, are good for the WWE. Why? Because it puts eyes on the product. And there's only one wrestler, and it's not Kenny Omega. It's not Jon Moxley. It's not Chris Jericho. There is only one guy that has been on the AEW roster that puts real eyes on AEW, and that is CM Punk. He's the only one who's done it. More than Danielson. Danielson is huge in the world of wrestling. CM Punk is huge in the world of media. Like, he is bigger than wrestling. His name has become bigger than wrestling. Not many guys could say it. He's one that can. Jericho, humongous in the world of wrestling. CM Punk is bigger than wrestling. Good, bad, or indifferent, for whatever reason why he has become bigger than wrestling. People know who CM Punk is without knowing what wrestling is. It's the same. Goldberg, good, bad, or indifferent, people know who the fuck he is. Even without knowing wrestling, they know who he is. And not many guys have reached that level. But, like, Punk is there. And I think it's tough because AEW was supposed to be the non-WWE, the alternative, the guys who ran it. We should side with him, but why? Why? There's not been a single wrestling organization. I guarantee you, there are people that when Young Bucks were running shit in ROH, when they were running shit in fucking New Japan, that fucking couldn't stand them, and still worked with them. I guarantee there's a lot of people that hate Kenny Omega, the person. They just hate him. For whatever reason, they hate him. They think he's fake. You know what I mean? He can be the nicest person in the world. There are people out there that think nobody's that nice. Yeah. And maybe he is. But there are people that absolutely hate him. You are never going to get everybody liking everybody. You need to teach them that, hey, you're going to, in life, have to work with somebody you don't like. I think Punk can be professional on camera and then say, don't talk to me in the back. I want nothing to do with you. We'll do our business as long as it's not affecting his wallet, his you know, the career of CM Punk. I don't think he'll care.
That's fair, yeah.
Now, the Young Bucks only want people there that are going to kiss their ass, and if they're not kissing their ass, they don't want them around. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know them well enough. I don't know any of these guys well enough. Punk seems like an asshole. Why? Why does he seem like an asshole? Because a bunch of people told us he is? I've never met him. I don't know him personally. I don't know any of these guys personally. You can only go off the stories, and maybe that's why guys are stepping up and saying, hey, Punk's not that bad of a guy once you get to know him. And some people maybe are just using what they've heard about Punk to already judge him. So now he comes off like an asshole, because if you treat a guy like an asshole and expect him to be nice to you, he's going to probably be an asshole to you.
Yeah.
I don't know any of these guys, but what I can tell you is the most media attention that AEW has gotten has been from two events, and that is the return of CM Punk and this fallout at Brawlout. And who was center stage of both of them? CM Punk. CM Punk has put more attention on them. And guess what? When he comes back, it's going to be bigger than either one of them. When he comes back and stands in the ring with Kenny Omega and the Elite, it is going to be bigger than anything we've ever seen. In AEW, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So for them to paint it as there's no money in that, that's the only money AEW has right now.
That's the thing. Like that's why in my head it just makes sense for him to come back. Like it makes sense for him to come back. He's not. And listen, we're talking about he's an asshole. He's all this. You know, again, possibly, maybe, most likely. You know, who knows? Because you don't live that lifestyle without kind of being a dick. You know what I mean? That straight edge lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, and listen, if he is, he is. He's still better than fucking Hogan. Hogan's a goddamn racist. You know what I mean? Like, and he still comes out on WWE TV. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'd rather see CM Punk on my TV and him being like, look at the Bucks and go fuck yourself. Hey, go fuck yourself too. And then just go in their cars and fucking drive off. But they can make money. Like, people were like, he's the fucking worst. CM Punk is not the fucking worst person in professional wrestling. He might have an ego. He might be this. He might be that. Motherfucker, he ain't racist. Like, that's arguably worse, right? Can we not say that is arguably worse, right? And then he's not that. So guess what? He's automatically better. You know, in that sense, he's automatically better. And he's less of a toxic person in that sense. He might have an ego, but you don't get that big without having an ego.
He's painted a certain way because, and again, it's like these old stories now you hear of like Austin refusing to lose to somebody and walking out and all this other shit, right? It's all revisionist.
Or him and Owen not letting after Owen broke his neck, he's like, I'm fucking done. I'm not working with this dude.
It's all revisionist history when you really think about it. Like all these guys at some point have said, nah, I'm not losing this guy. All of them. Everybody. I'm speaking Miz too. Like any of the guys that you can think of that you're like they absolutely love this business at some point have said, no, I'm protecting myself here. This is not good for my career. The guys who have not gotten to that stage. I mean, think about some of the guys that you're sitting here right now thinking they deserve to be in the spotlight. Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston. You get guys like that, right? The guys that you're like, I wish they had a legit run, and it sucks that now they've gotten older. But guess who hasn't stood there and said, nah, this is bad for my career? It's those guys, because they're happy with what they've had. We, as fans, might not be happy about it. They are absolutely happy with their longevity, you know, with who they are, that they can be the guy in a tag team randomly, that they could main event something out of nowhere and all that. They're happy with that.
Yeah.
Other guys aren't. Brock Lesnar's not going to come out and let Omos squash him. What would be best for business would be Omos squashing Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Because now Omos is a fucking beast. But guess who doesn't want that to happen to him? Brock Lesnar. Why? Because he's earned that in his career to say, nah.
Yeah, nah, I'm good.
That's why Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker. Because Brock Lesnar earned that. Certain guys, you know, you hear a story of like they want Edge to beat The Undertaker and Edge said, no, I'm not going to be the guy to do that. Certain guys feel that way about certain things. And other guys are like, you know,
fuck it. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Like, it's believable. Everybody would understand why Brock Lesnar would win it. Is it the best for...
Orton's another one, too. Like,
yeah, you got to protect your own career. And Punk has protected his own career, maybe at the detriment of storylines. It doesn't make him an asshole. The reason why Punk is where he is today is because he's protected himself. And there are certain guys that don't need to... I guarantee you've seen it plenty of times that said, I'm not losing to certain people. But we 100%. Paint it as Vince pushing Cena. It's Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns at a certain point started saying, I won't lose to this guy. But we want to paint it as Vince is pushing it. Vince, if only Vince would get Roman Reigns. No. He's now built himself to a point that he can say, no. What sense does this make that Jimmy or Jey Uso is going to beat me in a singles match when all these other guys couldn't? What sense does that make? And they're like, oh, but it's going to make for a great story. Like, what sense does it make that Sammy's going to beat me? And Sammy probably was like, he's right. What sense does it make that I'm going to... And everybody's like, oh my God, it's going to make for this great... And he's like, but what sense does this make? Those guys...
You know, it's telling when Roman's like, hey, you know, it'd be a nice main event for WrestleMania 40 in Philly. Seth and me. And you're like, you know what? Not a bad idea.
Because that's long-term storytelling, and it makes sense if Seth, who has beaten Roman in the past, will eventually beat him.
He's just fucking Joker. Yeah, like that. You're right there. Like if Roman's the one calling the shots, he'd be like, nah, this is the dude doing it, and this is the day it's going to happen.
And that's, I'm sure, everything we heard about Punk and Moxley happens all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they went back and forth between who was going to win matches in the Jericho MJF feud. Who was going to come out on top at the end of it. Because Jericho has to protect himself so he can continue to develop guys. If Jericho loses every single big match, suddenly he's not there for Ricky Starks to build off of. So he needs to win, but everybody watches and says, why is Jericho winning? It's funny, why is Jericho winning, but we're like, why Danielson lose? You know, it's a weird thing where, like, they need to continue to win, or else now they just look like the old... It's the Ric Flair, before his retirement match, where he had to go on a winning streak. His next loss... Remember, he was just losing all the time.
Oh, yeah.
He was just losing all the time, and then he had to, like, go on a winning streak, because his next match he loses, he was going to retire. And it was that whole storyline. Eventually, Ric Flair seemed like an old man that couldn't win a match. So you needed to rebuild him back up a little bit. And that's what needs to happen with all of them. Sting can't go in a match once every 2 years and lose. He just can't. Who's that help if fucking, I don't know, anybody goes out, Hobbs calls out Sting for a singles match and it destroys Sting. It doesn't further Will Hobbs at all. But like, yeah, it's a weird situation. I don't know. For those of you actually watching, Carlos just left me, so I'm just gonna keep talking. But yeah, it's a weird situation. Punk has gotten to this point by protecting himself, which we all wish we could do, until it doesn't fit our preference, and then he's an asshole. And that's what comes out of all this stuff. Like I said, it's the same thing where the Cody and Roman thing. You got to blame somebody, right? You got to blame somebody. So it's Vince's fault that
of course, yeah,
that Cody
fault,
didn't win. It's Vince's fault. And then when Triple H comes out and says, "Nah, this was the plan all along," and it's like, well, what an idiot. Why? Why? Because you thought it made sense for Cody? I told you why Cody wasn't going to win, and that's exactly why he didn't win. Because it was Cody's thing. Everybody, why does Vince want to paint a light on a guy who his story is he left, got better everywhere else, proved that they didn't know how to handle him, and now the character he developed on his own is coming in and destroying the guy he spent 10 years building?
That even his dad was building. Yeah. Even Cody's dad was building.
What sense does that make? It makes no sense. Really, it was Cody's journey that everybody wanted to see end. But it made no sense ending Reigns' reign because Cody came back. A guy that couldn't hack it in WWE before is now going to come back and be the man. It wasn't happening that easily. It just wasn't happening that easily. It was too easy. And for everybody to think it was going to happen, I don't know. I told you that a while. I told you when it was coming up.
Listen, I actually recorded myself because I was like, if he won, I wanted like to put it on our shit. But when he loses, I was like, okay. I was like, literally, like, there's like sadness, and then for like a split second, I'm like, yeah, okay. I want to see where this goes.
Yeah, yeah. So again, I don't know when you walked away. I know I was just at that point. I was just fucking talking about shit. But we'll rein it back into CM Punk now because I was trying to. But yeah,
thanks for raping. Yeah.
It threw me off for a second, and I was like, I was actually done my point. But yeah, I don't know. It's like anything else. It's the guy in your office that gets a promotion, and you're like, he does less work than me. Well, guess what? He stood up for his fucking self and got that promotion. I've worked with plenty of people like that. I'm like, how the hell did he get it? Oh, he kissed ass? That's bullshit. Well, guess what? He's making more money than you now. Like,
you could have easily done that. Yeah.
It's that whole what's that? You're proud of people as long as they're under you, or whatever the hell the saying is. You don't want to see.
I know what you're talking about.
Most people don't want to see other people advance past them, because then it's jealousy, and I feel like Punk has a lot of people jealous of him. For good, bad, indifferent, whatever the hell he did. There's a lot of people that don't like Chris Jericho because of the shit he's done to get to the point he is right now.
It's true. It's true.
Every wrestler has that. Everybody does. I can't think of a single wrestler that everybody is like. There's people that don't like John Cena.
Oh, 100%.
Like the person, not just fans. The person,
like in the roster. Yeah.
Like it's just what happens. I mean, The Miz literally has done everything the fucking guy could to get rid of that stigma of being, some punk reality TV star. Like, the dude literally works behind the scenes just as much as Cena did, And
I just saw that.
And he's still got people like, well, yeah, but he ain't that good. Well, he's gotten to the point he's gotten to.
Yeah. Exactly.
Again, Punk.
Yeah, it is that skewed, right? Like if you have a certain, like, and I love that we're saying this, and I've been critical of Punk while wearing a Punk shirt. But you're right, man. Like, and it's not a one-way street, by the way, too. With that comment of like, do I want Punk back? Yes, but do I like? Does AEW need him? And like, does he? I was like, I want a caveat. That caveat goes for the elite as well. Like, I don't want to mention that it doesn't go for the elite. Like, everyone needs to be a fucking adult here. Like, right. Not just Punk. Punk gets a bad rap because he's very like vocal, and you say he fights for himself and he does all this stuff. And that's not, in hindsight, if you were in that situation, that's not, you talk out, you want to feel protected about yourself, right? That's not necessarily a horrible thing, but in this realm of professional wrestling and where he's at and stuff that he's done or perceived to have done, it gets you, right, a little bit when it shouldn't. But yeah, I would want the same thing from the elite. Like, I would want Matt and Nick to be fucking adults here. Like, let everyone be. Moxley's apparently the only adult in this situation, which is fucking weird.
But like, say that. Really, let's think about it. Punk got where he is today because of that. For standing up for himself, for standing up for what he thought was best for business, for what he thought was best for the rest of the guys. He's done it. And you know what? One book I've been dying to actually read was the Young Bucks book. Because whether I'm a huge Young Bucks fan or not, I like them. I appreciate them for what they are. They have done a lot to get to where they are. And how can you really downplay any of that? They both... Punk went into the World of Giants and became their biggest thing. The dude was a champion for, the longest modern-day champion before they had to have Brock beat him and then Roman. Like... He was champion and not main eventing pay-per-views. And like, he just kept on rolling, and he kept being one of the main guys talked about, and he got to the point where he left with the title and they were showing him at Wrigley Field, and he was all over ESPN and getting interviews from the Pipe Bomb and all this other shit. The dude became what he wasn't supposed to be. He's done what he thought was right. Not everybody agrees. Not everybody agrees with anything. But just like not everybody agrees with what the Young Bucks view as wrestling. It's the same idea. Jim Cornette's, Kenny Olivier, when he talks about Kenny Omega. And I told you, it's one of those things when I watch him talk, I'm like, I get it. I understand it. He seems like a very bad, like, actor in a play sometimes when he's talking. You could see the criticism, but let's not act like Hulk Hogan when he spoke didn't seem like somebody reading down like lines from to talk to your child. Like, there's a lot of people that you can criticize. The Rock literally would just come out and just insult people. Sometimes it was like, this ain't even storyline no more. He's just coming out and making fun of their...
It's not even funny.
he's like not even talking about their match anymore. He's just making fun of the way they talk, and then
you look stupid.
Then says his couple sayings and then leaves. And you're like, oh my god, that was a great promo. And it's like, no, he just really just came down and talked shit. Not like in a good way either, just in a very childish way. And you're just like, oh yeah, he said Poo-Tang Pie. Like, it's the same shit over and over again.
$1 million right there. And then.
Yeah, it's like people who have a problem with MJF now. And they say, he does the same thing over and over again. So did Stone Cold. So did The Rock. So did Jericho. Everybody has their shit that they hit. All the best talkers. Ric Flair literally said the same 6 things over and over again.
Yeah, Space Mountain.
Go watch it. Yeah.
Riding.
Yeah. Go watch his old stuff. They're all the same. And guess what? They're not on TV. They some of them were not on TV as much as MJF is now. Like, everybody gets repetitive. CM Punk might be one of the handful of people that, in all honesty, outside of his AEW run here, I don't know how really repetitive he was.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's one of the handful of guys that I don't know was super repetitive, but even that you could probably handpick the order he said things, everything like that. It all
100%. Yeah.
So I don't know where I was kind of getting with that. It's all a matter of preference, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. I said, choosing sides on this is stupid. It just is. Yeah. It really is. Except for like, if you feel like the company's going to push one side out because they don't want all of them there. I think they're too big of names. It's not like Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana could be the nicest guy in the world. Don't really care. Colt Cabana did not sell anything for AEW. There's a reason why he got thrown into the Dark Order and kind of got pushed in the back. He's a fun guy to have, but they weren't going to build around him. He was not worth anybody being upset. And him and Punk had real world problems. Not
legitimately legal problems.
Not wrestling problems. Not I don't like this guy. They had real world problems. And I don't care who was there first. I don't care who the Young Bucks are more friends with. How are you going to say, we don't want Punk because Colt Cabana is our friend? TK don't care. He didn't give that money to you guys so you can have what it was the AEW get all the time, the All Friends Wrestling that Jim Cornette always called.
All Friends. Yeah.
Regardless of how many times Jim Cornette has said that, that's not what this is. So that's what came out of that. And I don't believe that Punk said, I will only come back if you get rid of Colt Cabana. I think TK said, we're barely finding time for him. He's not worth ruining Punk's
100%
mindset. Yeah. Now the Young Bucks are worth it. In his mind, they're worth it. He's not going to side with Punk. None of them are getting pushed out. If the Young Bucks and Kenny leave because of this, doesn't that speak more on their character than anything else? Like that, the way I really think about it. If they leave purely because Punk comes back, then that means it would have happened at some point. Do you really want a Hogan thing? Because I don't think this is going to be Punk wants them gone. I think it's going to be them saying, we don't want to work with Punk, so then they leave. And then you have a very much like, well, who's really wrong here?
Yeah, you also get the Ty Mello thing that we mentioned earlier, right? She happens to put a post up about gaslighting. We don't know the history behind it. And Brandon Cutler's like, yeah, that sounds about right about Punk. And it's like, wait, these are not correlated. We also have the Elite legitimately renegotiating contracts around the time there's the possibility of Punk coming back. And like, so if they do leave, people are gonna be like, oh, they left because of Punk. And it might not be. It might be like, hey,
maybe they were planning on leaving anyway.
Yeah. WWE's over here, bro, and I could be Universal. I could be the one who beats Roman Reigns.
Yeah, but in reality, if that was the reason why any of them left,
100%, yeah,
Punk should get zero of the blame, because if they're going to run away because of that, outside of us finding out that Punk was standing outside their locker room every week, insulting the shit out of them, offering them out to fight every week, and they were like, all right, for my mental health, I gotta leave.
Yeah, I'm putting dog shit outside the door. Larry shit in front of their door every night.
But I have to assume that they have not been best friends with everybody they've ever worked with. So, I think they'd be stupid. I think any of them would be stupid to think that Punk doesn't help AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, more than anybody else on the roster. There's not a single person. And I'm not saying he's the best wrestler. I'm saying he helps the company more than anybody else. He puts more eyes onto them more than anybody else. He will single-handedly be the reason why what Warner Brothers, whatever the hell they're called now, will put more effort into promoting AEW. Will be because
having
of
a
Punk.
Dedicated second show, not just a Rampage, not some just random hour, like actual second show.
That's why CM Punk wrestled on Rampage all the time. He would always come out, he would come out and talk on Dynamite, and then he'd wrestle on Rampage. And that's why, because they knew that people will tune in to watch CM Punk on Friday.
Yeah, you get him twice a week. I know, I agree. I think it's gonna be, but I honestly, funny enough, I think it's gonna be best for business. I think I'm gonna pop. I'm gonna pop when he comes out. It's gonna be a big pop.
I'm hoping for Double or Nothing, because I don't want this to be like countdown for Chicago when Punk comes back. I want it to be a surprise.
Well, listen, if it's a countdown thing, I can tell you right now, there's no ifs, ands about it or whatever. It's not TK, because that's not how TK would have done it. He would have done it like we would. It would be a surprise.
That's a Warner Brothers thing.
It's a Warner Brothers thing. It's 100, because one time they didn't announce it, and Warner Brothers was fucking furious, and never again. Ever since Sting, never again. So if it does not be like a crazy surprise, like Danielson and Cole, it's gonna be so talked about, basically, like it was the first time, because of Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good topic. Look, he's coming. Yeah. He's coming back.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was saying, out of all of this, is that's where we've landed. Is he's, unless something drastic happens between now and when he's supposed to come back, he's coming back. Regardless if I'm right. Regardless if I'm right, which I am, that this has all been planned out from the beginning, or if you or anybody else is right and that this has just kind of come out, I'm convinced. I'm convinced. I've been convinced for a long time, and the way this has all worked out, I got to go back and listen to some of our old shit, like when we talked about it, because I was convinced then, and I'm fairly certain this is kind of played out relatively the way I told you it was going to get played out when he started to get healthy. It was all going to start coming back. And I need to go back and listen to it to make sure, because we've talked about this. Now, whether we talked about this in the episode or not, I'm not sure. But I know I've said this to you. And I need to go back and listen to it, because I really hope I did say this.
Now watch out for our socials for that TikTok with our like Twitter thing with like you saying it in episode 91 and you repeating it in episode 95, like I fucking told you.
Because I've said this, and regardless if this is real or not, I'm going to take credit for it and say that this was all planned out, because it weirdly seems like it. But yeah, no, it's funny. I thought we were gonna like. This was going to be an all-in episode and stuff. I think it's nice for us to hold off on that. We've talked about that announcement at Wembley. I think it's nice to hold off onto it until we have until we have a week where we have nothing to talk about, and then we can literally just we could just say what we want the card to be like. It sucks because Forbidden Door is before it too. So like talking about Wembley's all-in kind of gets overshadowed first by Forbidden Door, because any like the AEW New Japan stuff is probably going to happen at Forbidden Door. So
I mean, unless Will Ospreay.
But like All In, I suppose is going to be the reason why they're calling it All In, is because it's going to be like the original All Ins, and that's wrestlers from every company.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because I was reading somewhere where people were like, "Hey, I want it to be AEW centric," and it's like that's not what All In is. All In
that's
was
what All
supposed
Out
to be.
Is.
You're supposed to have guys from Impact, guys from everywhere. I assume All In, honestly, I assume we're going to get Monet, Mercedes Moné.
Oh, 100%.
I assume that'll probably be, she'll be on that card. I went and doubt that you get like you know what would be perfect. Hold on. And I'm going to say this here.
No, Mickey James is hurt.
I'm going to say this here. And this is how we're going to end it. One of the top billed matches at Wembley will be Saraya versus Mercedes Moné. And why is that? Why does that make sense?
I mean, she's the one who took her out.
Exactly. And Saraya's from England. She's probably one of the biggest deals over there that they have. That shit makes them money. So that I'm calling it right now. That will be one of. Yeah, that makes them Monet. That will be one of the headlined matches there, and it will be talked about constantly about how, you know, the history they have. So that's what they were holding off of. I think they knew this was coming for a while, and the reason why we haven't seen her yet even in AEW is because they're waiting for them.
That one, yeah. No, that makes sense.
So, yeah. All right. Well, it was fun. I got to go get ready for work. So you have anything else on the subject other than I was right?
I mean, I'm not saying you're right or wrong, but you are a telepath, or you can see into the future.
Hey, you called
many a time.
You called this topic. This was one time where you were like CM Punk, and I'm like, have they even announced him back? And there's just been way more stuff about him ever since you said it. What was that? That was I don't remember what day of the week that was. Was that Wednesday?
Like Tuesday or something. Wednesday or Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday.
That's true.
So, all right. Well, until next week, then. If you got nothing else to say, we'll see you when we see you.